Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm here with a tag video. I don't do a lot of these, so I'm really excited about this one. I was actually tagged from Becky over at Bex Reads. I will have her channel linked down below, but she has so graciously tagged me in the Fave of Faves book tag, where I'm going to be talking about a lot of my favorite books based on these questions, and some of these questions are really good. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. So the first question is, what is your favorite book this year? And this is a book that I actually recently read, and since I read it, I have not been able to stop thinking about it. That is Nothing Tastes as Good by Luke Dumas. This is a adult horror, and in this one we are following this character Emmett, and Emmett is struggling with his weight. His weight has been fluctuating ever since he was young. He has a really bad relationship with food, something that you learn throughout the story. And so at the start of this, he is like over 300 pounds. He ends up signing up for this experimental weight loss drug trial, and it works out great for him until he starts to suffer some really terrible side effects that ends with some people being found dead. So the story just kind of takes off from there. The one thing that I really liked about this is just diving really deep into Emmett as a character, his struggles with his weight, his struggles with food, his struggles with the judgment from people around him, including like friends, his romantic partner, especially his family. And then I also enjoyed some of the horror elements that we got as well. However, I will say, if this is a book that you guys are interested in, and if you are interested in it because of the horror, I would say the horror elements don't really start to pick up until like the last third of the book. This is definitely going to be on my favorites list at the end of the year. I absolutely loved the story. This is probably going to be one of those books that you guys are going to hear me talk about a few more times before the end of the year. Now, the next question is, what is my favorite book from 5 years ago? And I was hoping that I was going to be able to mention this book, and I am. It should be no shock to anybody. This is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, one of my all-time favorite books. This was my first book that I got from Book of the Month. This is my first book that I have read from S.A. Cosby, so this is my introduction into him. And I would say, if you've been hearing about S.A. Cosby, but you don't know what to pick up, I will always suggest Razorblade Tears. I absolutely loved this book. So this is a adult crime thriller. We're following these two fathers. One father is white, the other one is black, and basically their sons were in a relationship, not a relationship that either of them really approved of, but they were in a relationship, and unfortunately their sons were brutally murdered. However, both of these fathers do not think that the police is doing enough to figure out what happened to their sons, so they kind of form this unlikely friendship, this bond, and they go out and try to seek justice for their sons themselves. Really enjoyed the story. This is like the first time I read a book, and I really appreciated like all of the action that was in this. This kind of read like a movie. Like I saw it playing out in my head. I also really loved both of these characters. They are so different, and the friendship that they form by the end, I absolutely loved. I also loved that this was able to touch on a lot of heavier topics, especially with these two fathers not really agreeing with the relationship that their sons were in, and them trying to come to terms with that, especially now that their sons are no longer here. This just had a little bit of everything in it, and this book is not that long, and for it not to be so long, so much was packed into this story. I really love it. This is going to be a book that I am going to be talking about for years to come. Anytime that somebody asks me what book they should start with S.A. Cosby, I'm always going to say, start with Razorblade Tears. Next up, we have favorite book under 300 pages. And the first book that came to mind was Obstetrics by Naomi Kritzer. This is another book that I recently read and recently enjoyed, and it is just under 300 pages, and it is a book that obviously I was able to fly through. So in this one, we're following this obstetrician who is really no longer practicing anymore. So she was fired from her job and actually put on trial because she performed a illegal abortion on someone that she thought medically needed it. She was not found guilty, but she was looking for another job. This woman reaches out to her and she goes in for an interview. The next thing she knows, she wakes up, she is on this compound in a cult. They have told her that they brought her there because they need help delivering babies and she is going to be their new doctor. So this is essentially a cult story. It is your typical cult story, but I really loved it because I love following this character who is so conflicted about whether or not she should be helping these patients because she was kidnapped essentially and she doesn't want to be there, but she's also a doctor and she has a duty to help people. And so that's basically the story. It was short, it was to the point, and I was entertained from start to finish. So the next question is favorite standalone. And of course, my favorite adult fantasy standalone is Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. I have not talked about this book in a while, but this is one of my all-time favorite fantasy books. So in this, we're following this mother and son. They live in this village that has actually been invaded. And so basically, we're primarily following the son and what he is going through during this invasion because he has been told one thing about his empire's history, but once this invasion starts, he realizes that a lot of that has been lies. And then his mother that we follow, she is like this secret swords woman and she has not used her skills in a long time. And because of this invasion, she now has to bring those skills back to the forefront. I really enjoyed this one. This is kind of long. It's a chunky little standalone, but it packs so much into the story. It is such a fast read. I actually buddy read this the first time I read it. Well, the only time that I read it. And me and my friend who buddy read this with me, we had such good conversations around this one. I loved the relationship between the mother and son. I also liked how this touched on motherhood and this mother's conflicting emotions that she has about being this like swordswoman. I really, really love this, and it is a shame I have not picked up anything else from this author, but I plan to. Next question is favorite 4+ book series that I have completed. I had to really think about this for a second because a lot of the series that I have read are actually like trilogies. And then I was like, I absolutely love the Rhyuria Chronicles. How could I forget this? So this is a adult fantasy series by the author Michael J. Sullivan. And so the first book is The Crown Tower. Then we have The Rose and the Thorn. Then we have The Death of Dulgath. And then finally, The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter. Right now, I just have the first 4 books, but I believe a 5th book came out either last year or early this year that I really need to get to. But so far, this is the one that I've completed. And in this, we're following our 2 main characters, Hadrian and Royce. And basically, this series takes place before the Rhyuria Revelations, which is the series back there. That is what I read first. And so these 4 books kind of give some backstory into some of the events that happened in that series. But in this, we're just following Hadrian and Royce. Hadrian is a warrior. Royce is an assassin. They don't necessarily like each other, but they've been paired with each other. And they kind of go on these different quests together. And throughout their time, they're getting closer to each other. They're starting to learn more about each other. My favorite thing is their bromance, their banter with each other, because they are so different. And I actually had a fun time with the different quests that they went on as well. Now, I will say this is a series for people who are just getting into fantasy. I think that these will be a fun time for you, and I think that you will really enjoy these characters. But the reason why I keep coming back to the series is because I love Hadrian and Royce, 2 of my all-time favorite characters. So the next question, which I actually really like this question, it is, what is your favorite book with a trope you hate? One of the tropes I cannot stand is miscommunication. I cannot stand it. Every time I read a book with miscommunication in it, I'm just so annoyed because I'm like, these people could have just had a simple conversation. Well, there is one book where the miscommunication in it really kind of worked for me and it actually made sense. This is a book from an author that really did miscommunication well. That is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is actually a part of the Part of Your World series. I think there's 3 books in that, but these can definitely be read as a standalone. I read this one first, when technically I think it's book number 2. But in this one, we are following our 2 main characters who are both doctors. We have Brianna and Jacob. And Brianna has a lot kind of going on in her life. She is about to get divorced. And her brother is in need of a kidney donor, and she is trying to get a promotion at her job. In comes Jacob, who is the new doctor that nobody is really getting along with, and Brianna kind of feels threatened, but he ends up sending her a letter. At the beginning of the story, they're kind of like exchanging these letters back and forth, and finally it is revealed that Jacob is willing to donate a kidney to her brother, and Brianna is kind of questioning why, and the story kind of takes off from there. There is a lot of miscommunication in this book, but it definitely works, especially for these characters, especially for Jacob, because he deals with anxiety. Now, I have read books that have characters that have anxiety, but this was the first book where I felt the anxiety coming off the page. So much so that I felt like I had anxiety when I was reading from his POV. I really enjoyed this. This was a great introduction into Abby Jimenez. This is definitely one of her books that I would recommend to anybody because I think everybody would enjoy it. I love these characters. I love this book. Favorite book with a unappealing cover. And I have to say that all of the books that I really enjoy, books that I would consider favorites, I actually like the covers. I have gone up and down on my shelves. I have thought about every book that I have read or listened to, and I cannot think of one where I would consider it a favorite, but it has a cover that I don't like, because normally I pick up books based off of the covers. Now, of course, there have been some covers that I'm like, ooh, I don't really like that. I think we could have done something different. But off like the top of my head, I cannot picture any of my favorite books that has an unappealing cover. So I don't really have an answer. If I happen to find one while I am editing this video, I will pop it up real quick. But as of this moment, as of me filming this, I cannot think of a book that I consider a favorite that has an unappealing cover. So the next question, another question that I actually really liked, it's favorite book with a 3.5 or less average rating. That I will have to say goes to The Fury by Alex Michaelides. This is a adult thriller. Oh, you know what? Now that I'm looking at this again, I guess this could go to that previous question with the unappealing cover, because I hate this cover. I forgot how much I hated it until I really locked into it. Yeah, I don't care for this at all. I think we could have done anything else. I'm glad I actually took a second look. So I do have an answer for that. This book, but this is also a book that I really enjoyed that a lot of other people don't seem to really have enjoyed by this author. So in this one, we're following this ex-movie star. She ends up inviting some of her friends to like this private island. While they're there, there is a murder. And the character that we are following in this story is Elliot, who is good friends with this ex-movie star. I enjoyed Elliot as a character. This is one that I listened to on audio. I binged this audiobook. I was able to listen to the entire thing in one day. I was so intrigued by this book until we got to the end. Now, the ending left a little bit to be desired. I think I was a little confused by the end, but everything leading up to the end, I really enjoyed. I think this is right up there with The Silent Patient from this author. I really like this. I know it really pains me to know that so many people do not like this book, but I had a great time with it. So the next question is favorite book that starts with the same letter as your first name. First book that came to mind is Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. This is a adult thriller. Technically, I could have cheated. My name starts with a T. A lot of the books start with the, and I did not want to cheat, so this is the one that I decided to pick because I really did enjoy this one. This one deals with an elderly lady, which you guys know I love books now that deal with elderly characters, one of my favorite things. And this one involves this woman who is like in her 80s, and back in the day she used to commit murders, but she's past that. She's changed her name, she has moved on with her life, and she doesn't want anything else to do with that until one day this investigative journalist comes to her house wanting to talk about these unsolved murders, and our character decides that I guess she's gonna have to come out of retirement because she does not want her past dug back up. Really enjoyed this one. Really enjoyed the character. I thought the main character was hilarious, and I kind of liked all the mistakes that she was making in this story because she's old. She's old, she's retired, she's not trying to do this anymore, but she has to do what she has to do to keep herself out of jail. Really enjoyed this. The last question is favorite book of all time. I did not want to repeat any of my answers, so I'm going to have to pick one of my favorite books of all time. Definitely a book that I used to talk about a lot. I haven't really mentioned it here recently, but let's talk about it. So we have Brooklyn by Tracy Brown. I devoured this at the time that I read it, and this is a adult fiction. Sadly, this author is no longer with us, but this was a great book. So in this one, we're following our main character, Brooklyn, and she kind of grew up in like a religious household, I guess. Her father is a pastor. Her mother is like the first lady. She has a younger sister and an older brother, and there's chaos in her family. Just because they're raised in the church do not mean that these people are godly. I'll just say that. And there is a situation that happens one night. A huge fight like breaks out within their family at home, and the outcome of that is Brooklyn left home and she went to New York. I want to say she actually went to Brooklyn, but I don't exactly remember where she went in New York, but she was in New York, and now she kind of has to survive on her own, and basically that's what we're watching her do, survive. She gets herself into a lot of trouble, and in this book, you will have a lot of mixed feelings about Brooklyn because I did. There were moments, especially in the beginning, where I really felt for her. By the end, I could not stand her. I wanted to strangle her. Some of the situations that she got herself in were so unnecessary. How she treated people was not right. This book had my emotions all over the place. I feel like I need to reread this one. I love this so much. I have read another book by this author that I really enjoyed, and I plan to read more, but this one is definitely one of my favorite books of all time. So those are all of the questions. I really enjoyed doing this tag. Again, I will leave Becky's channel linked down below. You guys definitely should go ahead, check out her channel, show her some love over there. But that is all that I have for you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.